We did it. We're here. The Pink Couch did it. We're here. You know what? Hi, Kenny Ken.
Hi, Cheech.
I am telling you. So, welcome to the Pink Couch. We are here. We are ready. Let me just tell you, every distraction, every inhibitant, every principality that is coming to stand in our way, I just know that something extraordinary is on the other side because the level of confusion that is coming our way these last few weeks and today in particular. Yes, we're not for it. I'm not having it. So I am so happy to see you today. How
I
are
do
you?
too. I bind it all up in the name
Mm.
of Jesus and rebuke anything that is not uh, forming to support and be a catalyst to the things that He has for me. Okay, I am not here
Thank you.
for
Thank you. Thank you.
it. And we are going to dive into
Mm.
politics.
Politics. And I know that's a dirty word. It's a dirty word.
Is. I mean, does it have to be, though? We're specifically talking about office politics and politics that you find in corporations. Is it really a dirty word?
Well, we use it, we translate it into a dirty word. It depends. When we think politics, we automatically go to polarization. You're on this side, I'm on this side. I want this, you want that. Um, and is it real, and we always go to government, but politicking is everywhere, everywhere, everywhere. And so it's really, do we need to make it a bad word? Does it need to be? Does it need to have all the negative connotations that we put on it?
I think that's the question, right? I think that there are positives and negatives to the connotation that we put around it, right? I think that there are sometimes challenges that come from it. There's, toxicity that can be
Mhm.
created in highly political environments where it's rampant and unchecked, right? And that can lead to toxic culture. But then there are opportunities as well, because on the flip side, if you manage those politics well, you can have strategic relationships that
Yeah.
are formed that help support and push you in the right direction and get you where you need to be. And so understanding how to connect the people who are decision makers to the folks that are influencing those decision makers, all the way down to the folks who are going to be impacted by some sort of change, I think that's a positive way of using politics.
Absolutely. And I don't want us to go down the pathway of, oh, if you could chill with any political figure, living or dead, who would that be and why? Because that just gets into foolishness.
I can think of one anyway. So
Well, I mean, again, it just gets into foolishness, and it's sort of the okay, why and so what, and where do we go from here? You know.
now you're a very diplomatic person. Would you ever consider a career in politics?
My work life is politics. I am in politics. That's what I do.
Okay.
I mean, and it's so, I mean, let's go there. It is, I think, in order to navigate in a lot of executive settings, in a lot of corporate settings, in a lot of professional settings, you have got to have a mastery of politics, the politics of people, the politics of the office, the politics of the culture that you're sitting in. That's why I said when we talk about politics, it goes wide and far. And you have to decide when you're going, how and where you navigate, what landmines you're willing to step on, and what ones you're not willing to step on. And quite frankly, um, for me, the politic game ends when my integrity comes into question. We are no longer, it's no longer a question mark. It's no longer a discussion point if integrity, especially personal integrity, comes
Mhm.
into the fold. But I would say, yeah, I am extraordinary. I am Switzerland. However, even being Switzerland is taking a political position.
I would agree with that. I think for me, I'm on the bus with you about, when it calls into question integrity, that's a full,
Mhm.
right? I believe in being strategic and transparent and seeking to elevate not just personal success, but the success of the team
Mhm.
that I have and the organization that I'm part of. And I know that it requires politics for me to be able to do that. But the most important thing is it also requires ethical leadership and emotional intelligence and adaptability. And, all of those things are critical in
Mhm.
trying to navigate those dynamics. And so, my question for you is, as a woman, do you think the political landscape is different than it would be for a man in the same environment, right? Two people, same corporation, same organization.
Personally, absolutely. Absolutely. It's funny you're bringing this up. I had a conversation with some colleagues a few days ago, and we were talking about things that polarize in the workplace, right? And can be, something that women grapple with because it's so polarizing in the workplace. And the topic came up about, leave, especially maternity leave or
Mhm.
having to take time for kids, right? So I just want to use that as an example. And then I want to go to one that is really, really like in the weeds of work, but I do want to use this one because when you think about, it's a double-edged sword. When you think about a woman going out on maternity leave when she's at the pinnacle of her career, there's always this sort of, oh my goodness, can you do that? How soon are you going to come back? Is that the right thing for you? How is that going to, you know, how are people going to look upon that? Oh, you're no longer going to be the go-to. You're no longer going to be, and there's all of this, all of a sudden, there's a whole narrative that is created around that. As opposed to if a man says, I'm going to go out on paternity leave. Oh my God, that's so wonderful. It's
Mhm.
so wonderful that you are taking the time and that you have the ability to take the time to go and be there for, to be there and to be a part of that journey with your children. It's a double standard. So
Mhm.
absolutely held to different grounds, held to different standards. And I use that one because that's, sort of the up in your face and I've recently lived it, right? So it's a really real one. But flip the script. Think about other areas. Think about, I look at um, the words that are used to describe males versus females in sort of work situations,
Mhm.
right? When topics get heated, right? When topics get heated and people start to assert, your male counterpart is, considered confident,
Mhm.
focused, um, you know, uh, he maybe even type A, right?
Mhm.
But
He's
the
passionate.
woman is she's passionate. The woman is considered emotional,
Mhm. 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 Or
right?
aggressive.
Aggressive, emotional, um, and so just think about that. Think about the picture that's being painted about. So yeah, the same situation, same way of engaging, but so completely different ways that people are perceived.
Yeah. Yeah, I do. I hear you because I think that, the systemic barriers and gender biases, they all play a part in the workplace just overall, right? So when
Mhm.
you think about politics and how you're navigating those politics, it is going to be a different playing field for a woman. Um, we face these stereotypes that affect the how our behavior is perceived, right? It's not even that that's what we're doing. It's not even that that's the
Mhm.
intention behind it, but as you were saying, like the assertiveness in men is viewed in such a positive way. They're being great leaders, while the same exact behavior from a woman is unfairly labeled aggressive or unlikable, even.
Well,
Um, right?
100%. And I would be remiss because I don't think we did it when we started, which is shout out to Robbie. Hi, Net, who is not with us today. As you can tell, we're bringing it in for the home team, and we did not plan the Pinky Tuscadero, but it works. But shout out to Robbie, who is holding it down and making magic happen in the Floridas today. So do you, baby girl, do you?
But even though she is making things happen, right, but she has to think about how she navigates politics differently than a man would, right? And I think sometimes
Absolutely.
those gender biases and the stereotypes, they make it harder for women to advocate for themselves, to engage in the office politics, right, without being penalized or being judged for the way that they interact and engage. I think the reason why we used to have, what people, I don't know if we used to have it, we probably still have, but the thing that people talk about, which is the good old boys network, right? I think one of the biggest challenges of not just having office politics, but how you navigate that as a woman is that you often get excluded from those power networks, right? Because you're not part of the good old boy crew.
Right. Well, let me ask you a question. What role do you think groupthink plays in politics? And I want to expand this because this could be office politics. This could be, I would venture to say, there are politics that happen in our family agendas, right? And there are actually the political environment that, there's this little thing happening in about 30 days, right? And so how do you think groupthink and influences sort of this whole the game of politics? And I do use the word game very intentionally.
Yeah, I think groupthink is actually dangerous. I'm an advocate for people getting around a table with people who don't think the way that they do. And particularly because everyone needs to be challenged in there. That's how we grow, right? You never grow from things that are comfortable. You grow from having uncomfortable conversations on a comfy couch. So
Shout out.
You see what I did there?
You did. I like that.
So
Hashtag the official pink couch. Click on join right now. Go ahead. Okay, carry on.
So I really think that it's dangerous that we live in this society now where politics has divided us so much, in fact, that we can't come together with people who have different ways of thinking, different ideas about how we should move forward as a country, and have a civilized adult conversation and still leave as friends after it's over, right? And so for the people who are into group think, now what I love is a good ideation session, right? I'm down for a great ideation
Absolutely.
session. I want different backgrounds, different opinions, multiple perspectives. And I don't want to, a lot of times I feel like we throw the politics in things that shouldn't have politics around it at all. And that becomes very dangerous as well. So groupthink for me is like, oh, please don't do it. I'm going to pull my hair out. But ideation in a collective way is what I think people should strive towards.
So absolutely. However, we live in the world that we live in. And I will tell you, okay, I'm putting on my truth lens right now. Was going through there was so much going on. I shut off. I didn't watch TV, didn't turn on the thing. The only connection was talking to people in the office and social media for any sort of news and any sort of outlet. And so it was fascinating how skewed the opinions were coming across and how it was, but that's how I was consuming information for this week period of time where I was like, I do not want to sit up and watch CNN right now. It's just too much. Like I don't want to see another bombing. I don't want to see another child kidnapped. I don't want to see another shooting in a school. Right. It was just too much. But to see how, um, social media and media, what have you, kind of plays and changes that narrative. I just, when you start thinking about groupthink, it's really easy to fall into that groupthink. So how do how do you make that separation and how do you check yourself?
I think for me, it's all about digging to find my own perspective in it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that when you seek to understand and fall in love with a problem, you are more likely to consider multiple perspectives in solving that, right? But what happens is most people fall in love with a solution because they have this propensity to want to be right. Being right becomes the thing that they are hyper focused on. And so they are going to find the thing that makes them right in that scenario. And instead of seeking to understand and really diving into, like, what are we really solving to?
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And that's where I think what my approach to things just differs quite a bit, right? Because even in groupthink, when people are collectively trying to get something that they want me to move behind, support, whatever, I'm still going to do my own homework. I'm going to do my homework. I'm going to develop my own perspective. And I'm going to try to bring something different to the table, even if I agree with 90%, right? There's the 10% that we should probably talk about.
Absolutely. But let me ask you this. There, you then also have the people who both office politics, home politics, you know, election season coming up, who say, I opt out. I tap out. I choose not to engage.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right. To end up, or how do you relate to that? How do you engage with the people who are like, I tap out, but then we'll have opinions about what potentially is happening and
I
the
tell them they
implications.
can't have one. I remind them, you tapped out, remember? So you do not get a seat at the table. Once you tap out, you got to remove yourself. You don't get to, it's not double dutch. You don't get to hop in the rope when you see something that's hot. Now you want to come in the rope and talk about it. You tapped out. So go ahead and have your seat. We'll gladly give you your seat over there. But at this table,
Right.
this is for the people who have not tapped out. This is for the people who have not decided that they can't handle the hard conversations. And so if you want to be part of this table, we invite you to do so, but you will not get to hop in and hop out when it's convenient for you.
So let me ask you this. So let's leave the workplace and let's talk about this lovely election season that we're in right now. Right? I heard a fascinating commentary about this was a faith-based leader who commented, he was being asked by one of the political parties to come out and endorse them. And we wanted him, his large following wanted him to come out and actively endorse him. And what he said was, it does not matter who sits in that seat. People have to vote with their conviction. But at the end of the day, right, he's like, I'm not going to be a party to creating more division, was the bottom line. Mm-hmm. And so it was really thinking about that just in terms of sort of how people are leaning in and how polarizing it is becoming, right? Mm-hmm. Because people half the time they're, are afraid to speak up, fear of being canceled, right? If their viewpoint are along a different party line or along a different, a contrary to the norm. So how is that showing up for you? How are you seeing that?
It's interesting because number one, I would love to know who this religious leader was, because I actually think that was a great way of doing it. Mm-hmm. my personal opinion about that is, don't ask me to endorse you simply because of who I am and where I am,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um,
Absolutely.
right. And especially if, you're in ministry, which I am, right? If you
Mm-hmm.
are in ministry, you're the only person you should be endorsing is
Hmm.
Jesus Christ and God and the
Well,
kingdom. So it, to me, is a little unnerving that you do see people who are willing to come out and say, "Oh, I support this candidate," or "I support that candidate."
mm-hmm.
Um, I support the kingdom of God. So um, y'all vote the way you need to vote for what you believe in and the God you serve. And I don't think that people in ministry should be
Yep.
endorsing political candidates. And so that's just where I kind of fall on that. But how do I approach that when people have conversations with me? We have somebody who's running for local office here in the area that I live in, and she probably will make a great mayor.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know her. And so to me, this is the thing. If I have a personal relationship with you, then I would feel comfortable or not endorsing you from a
Mm-hmm.
personal level, right? But if I don't have a personal relationship with you, my endorsement is simply for influence that I
Right.
would be willing to allow you to borrow to move your agenda forward. And I'm not willing to do that for anyone that I don't know. I don't care how small or big the office is that they're applying to. So that's just sort of where I sit within and how I
Mm-hmm.
navigate that space. I've got 17,000 followers on Instagram right now. People would say that that's influencer status. I don't feel like an influencer.
Mm-hmm.
I am not an influencer. I
According to you.
influence her.
Right.
See what I did there?
Got that.
Um, through the connections and the work that I do and the personal relationships that I have, right? And so, would I ever allow someone who is in politics to collaborate with me on a post and make it appear as if
Mm-hmm.
I'm endorsing them? Absolutely not. And I'm just not into telling people what they should do with their own vote. That is the beauty of being in these United States of America.
There we go. So, what you gonna do? What you gonna do? What you gonna do?
Oh,
So, I mean, I think we're at this place, and I think as we think about, let's don't just talk about it, be about it, right? So, we always close out the show with what are three things that you are going to do? You got to do something. Don't sit here and be idle. It is time to do something. So,
yeah.
I think first out the box for me is you got to get informed. You
That
have
part.
got to get informed. And you have to get informed for yourself, right? Be that your home politics, if it's your family, your cousins and them are doing this, that, and the other, figure out the situation, understand before you pick a side, pick a team, pick a what have you. And sometimes understand getting informed may mean the team is Team EJ. I'm not picking a side.
Mhm.
Switzerland is a lovely place to be.
I want to go there right now, actually.
I'm just
Matter of fact,
saying.
I think I want to go there on November 5th.
Or somewhere. Or
Right.
somewhere.
Somewhere.
Exactly. So do something. Do something. Other way, you want to speak to understanding the landscape?
Yeah, I mean, it's just basically what you're saying, right? Understand what you're dealing with, what's happening, but get knowledgeable. I was just having this conversation with Gabriel, my husband. You know who he is, but our viewers
Mhm.
may not. Where he was reading me something that he found on CBS News. And because the role that I have in my day job is to understand the law and to help interpret that law and help in a healthcare organization to understand how to comply and
Mhm.
implement that law, I watch the news all day. I've got feeds that come in. I'm looking at regulations and proposed legislation. I'm doing all of this stuff. And I'm like, I've never seen that cross my desk before. I don't know that that's true. I don't know that it's real. There's so much misinformation
Yep.
in the world, that if people would just take the 10, 15, 20 minutes to drill down on what they're reading and do an assessment and understand the landscape, is that actually facts or is it not? Right? Just be able to understand what the situation actually is, not what people are feeding to you.
Absolutely.
And I think that also goes to what happens in office politics too, right? It's like sometimes we are watching the politics and making a lot of assumptions about the politics that we see play out in front of us without going a little deeper to truly understand what's happening behind the scenes. And we can let those assumptions draw conclusions that lead us to make decisions that maybe are a little misinformed. So I think
Absolutely.
understanding the landscape is absolutely what people need to do.
So get informed, understand the landscape, and I would say finally, don't be afraid to speak up, right? Speak up. And exercise your boss moves. You have got to be able to leverage your voice. Don't be afraid, but be wise, right? This is not about offending. This is about we're all going to have to exist in this place together, right? So how do we speak up? How do we share where we are and come to it from a place of understanding, of learning, of building something greater for the future? So,
Absolutely.
kind of with that takes us to our final word.
So, final thought,
Mhm.
and I think we should share this final thought because something in my spirit wants me to let the people know.
What you want them to know?
I want them to know that the politics also start with you. Right? Like we all contribute to these things. We sit back and talk about how we don't like it. We sit back and say how it shouldn't happen and how it should be different. But we all are playing a role. We are all contributing in some kind of way. And so I think for me, it is so important for people to understand their own bias, understand their how they show up in the politics and what their contributions are to the environment that they're in. Are those positive contributions or are they challenging contributions? Right?
Absolutely. And where I would leave it is this may feel daunting, but at the end of the day, this is about connections, connecting with others, understanding different perspectives, and working together for change. And so politics is a part of life. So let's continue to keep on living. And with that,
We have.